2019 was the year I finally experienced some of the gaming's biggest legends, from surviving what I still consider the greatest horror experience in gaming, to playing the RPG that became my favorite game of all time. These are the games that defined my 2019. Number 10. Super Daryl Deluxe. This was one of the biggest surprises of the year, because it had almost everything I enjoy in games. It's a Metroidvania with the RPG progression, dozens of skills to experiment with, and some of the weirdest writing I've ever seen. The bizarre humor, goofy art style, and soundtrack give it a personality unlike anything else I played that year. I spent over 40 hours with it and barely felt any exhaustion. It absolutely earned its spot on the list. Number 9. Orwell. If the title already gave you an idea what this game is about, you're probably right. After a terrorist attack, you're put in charge of the government surveillance system, reading messages, emails, and phone calls to identify the people responsible. Every piece of information you upload shapes the investigation, leading to different arrests and endings. More than anything, Orwell made me seriously question how much privacy I'd be willing to sacrifice in exchange for security. It's a genuinely unique experience. Number 8. Trover Saves the Universe. This was only the second game I ever bought at launch, because I loved Rick and Morty and knew Justin Roiland was behind it. Thankfully, it wasn't just relying on that connection. The constant banter between characters had me laughing throughout the whole game, and because everything is fully voiced, the comedy lands even better. Platformers usually aren't my favorite genre, but Trover's humor carried the experience from beginning to end. If you're a fan of Rick and Morty, this one's a no-brainer. Number 7. Far Cry Primal. I love the Far Cry series. In fact, the only two entries I didn't really enjoy are Far Cry 6 and Blood Dragon, although I probably didn't give Blood Dragon a fair chance because I wasn't a fan of its aesthetic. Primal completely refreshed the formula for me. Instead of assault rifles and rocket launchers, you're hunting with spears, taming saber-tooths, and surviving in a prehistoric world. It somehow still felt unmistakably like Far Cry, while being completely different. Last year, I even went back to earn the hardest achievement by beating the game on Expert with permadeath enabled. It became one of the most stressful gaming experiences I've ever had, because one careless mistake, one animal ambush, or one bad fall could instantly end the entire run. I definitely don't recommend trying it without some preparation. Number 6. Fallout. I enjoy going back and experiencing some of the classics that shaped the industry, and Fallout became my next stop. Being the oldest game I've played throughout this entire series, I wasn't sure how well it would hold up, but it completely won me over. Like I've mentioned before, I love games that don't hold your hand, and Fallout is exactly that. You're simply told to find a replacement water chip before your vault runs out of time, and how you solve that problem is entirely up to you. What impressed me the most though was the ending. Instead of simply rolling the credits, the game shows the long-term consequences of your choices. The towns you helped flourish, the people you saved move on with their lives, and even your companions receive their own conclusions. Few games have made my decisions feel that meaningful. Number 5. Assassin's Creed 3. Out of every mainline Assassin's Creed game I finished, only 2 still aren't fully completed. Assassin's Creed 3 because Bugged Homestead achievement locked me out of 100%, and Black Flag because of the multiplayer achievements that absolutely nobody asked for. We'll save that rant for the next year's video. Despite that, I really enjoyed Connor's journey. After spending 3 games with Ezio, I can understand why Connor divided opinions, but I still had a great time with him. Watching the homestead slowly grow made the frontier feel alive in a way I didn't expect, even if those same homestead achievements betrayed me in the end. Number 4. BioShock 2. In my previous video, I mentioned that I usually like playing games in order, but BioShock 2 became the exception. After finishing the original, I tried the sequel almost immediately, and it just didn't click. I wasn't a fan of playing as Big Daddy and ended up dropping it. A few years later, returning to Rapture after BioShock Infinite almost felt like coming home, and suddenly, everything I disliked before just clicked. The gameplay improvements were immediately noticeable, especially being able to use plasmids and weapons at the same time, and every encounter with the Big Sisters kept me on edge. While I still think the original tells the stronger story, BioShock 2 surprised me in another way. My nervous den completely exceeded my expectations. I don't usually expect much from DLCs, but this one delivered a story that I honestly enjoyed even more than the base game. And yes, they managed to fool me with another twist. Number 3. Alien Isolation. Alien Isolation is the first true horror game to appear in my Completionist Chronicles. I know some people would count Metro, but for me, this is where horror really begins. What's funny is that I'd never even seen the original movie before playing it, so everything felt completely unknown. I went in blind, played on the hardest difficulty, and died. A lot. The reason this game stands above almost every other horror title is the xenomorph itself. It doesn't simply follow scripted patrols, it learns from your behavior. Hide in lockers too often, and it will start checking them. Repeat the same trick, and they'll stop working. It constantly forces you to adapt. Even the motion tracker isn't completely reliable, because its loud beeping can give away your position if the alien is close enough. More than any jump scare, that constant feeling of being hunted is what makes Alien Isolation so special. To this day, I still think it's the greatest horror game ever made. Number 2. The Witcher 2. After loving the original Witcher so much, I couldn't wait to jump into the sequel. To this day, this is still the completion I'm most proud of earning. Completing the game on insane difficulty, where death permanently deletes your save, is something I don't think anything will ever top. Maybe Baldur's Gate 3 Honor Mode one day. We'll see. The Witcher 2 hooked me before I even started playing. The game asked if I wanted to import my Witcher 1 save, and I couldn't believe it. Seeing Arendite waiting for me at the beginning immediately made it feel like a true continuation of Geralt's journey. But the moment that completely blew me away came at the end of Chapter 1. Choosing between Roach and Orwell doesn't just change a few quests, it completely changes the entire middle portion of the game. Different locations, different characters, different romances, and an entirely different perspective on the story before both paths finally reconnect. I'd never experienced anything like that before. I still can't imagine how much work went into making both paths feel like complete games rather than alternate versions of the same story. If you're only planning one playthrough, I'd recommend signing with Roach, not because his path is better, but because the story connects much more naturally into Witcher 3. But despite everything I've just mentioned, when I think back on Witcher 2, the first thing that always comes to mind is surviving that insane playthrough. Number 1. The Witcher 3. Only one game managed to beat The Witcher 2, and that game is still my favorite game of all time. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I wouldn't be surprised if some people are disappointed that 2 games from the same franchise took the top 2 spots, but that's simply how much this trilogy meant to me. The jump from The Witcher 2 to The Witcher 3 felt enormous. Everything looked bigger, more alive, and more believable. Geralt's redesign suited him much better, and simply riding through Velen or Novigrad on Roach was enjoyable on its own. Meeting characters I'd only heard about before, like Yennefer, made it feel less like starting a new game and more like continuing Geralt's journey. What truly separates The Witcher 3 from most RPGs isn't just its size, it's the consistency of its quality. The Witcher contracts made every monster feel like its own investigation, while both the main story and side quests were written with the same level of care. In most RPGs, it's obvious when you're doing optional content, but here, I constantly forgot whether I was following the main quest or a side quest because both felt equally important. As someone who enjoys completing everything a game has to offer, I cleared every quest, every activity, and every question mark on the map. Surprisingly, almost none of it felt repetitive. The only exception were the smuggler's catches in Skellige. I'll happily complain about those forever. I also spent far more time than I'd like to admit, collecting every Gwent card and challenging everyone willing to play. The crossbow achievement though, who actually used that thing outside of underwater combat? When I reached the ending, I naturally got the outcome where Ciri became a Witcher, and I loved it. Learning afterwards that the game had multiple endings only made me appreciate how much freedom it gives the player to shape Geralt's story. Then came the DLCs. Both were fantastic, although I personally preferred Blood and Wine. Returning to the Lady of the Lake and reclaiming Arendite after losing it to the dragon in The Witcher 2 was such a satisfying full circle moment. But before I finish talking about The Witcher 3, there's one discussion I can't avoid. Triss or Yennefer? I think there are 3 kinds of Witcher fans. If The Witcher 3 was your first experience with the series, I don't think there's a wrong choice. Pick whoever feels right to you. If you've played the entire game trilogy like I did though, I think Triss feels like the natural choice. She's been with Geralt since the very beginning, helping him through all 3 games, and by the time I reached Novigrad, choosing her simply felt right. That's the choice I made, and I don't regret it for a second. And then there's third group. After reading the books, I completely understood why so many people believe Yennefer is Geralt's true partner. The last wish ties their destinies together, and although their relationship is messy, full of arguments, and far from perfect, they always find their way back to each other. The quest involving Jinn explores that relationship beautifully, and it gave me a completely different appreciation for Yennefer's character. Looking back, I'm actually glad I played the trilogy before reading the books. Experiencing Geralt's journey first made every revelation feel like my own, and reading the novels afterwards only deepened my appreciation for the world CD Projekt Red created. If you're interested in books, but the number of them feels intimidating, I'd actually recommend the first 2 books. Since they're a collection of short stories rather than one continuous novel, they're much easier to get into, and they actually ended up being my favorites as well. Whenever I think about my favorite moments in gaming, The Witcher 3 somehow always finds its way into conversation. More than 6 years later, after finishing hundreds of other games, nothing has managed to replace it. And honestly, I'm not sure anything ever will. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is still my favorite game of all time. And that completes my list of the absolute favorite games I finished back in 2019. Did any of these games leave the same impression on you? Are any of these sitting on your favorite lists? Or maybe I've intrigued you enough to finally check one of them out for yourself? I would love to read all about it in the comments below, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Soma signing off.